Alright. That's the stuff. Dear traveller, and welcome. Today we've got something exciting because we're going to be talking digicams. And can I be honest with you guys? Can I just be real, right? In this little confession, this little camera confessional that I'm in. Can I just speak some truth? I think I underestimated digicams. I think I kind of let them slide for a bit. I've been shooting heaps more film, haven't really been shooting digicams that much, and this channel was based on digicams. I'd like to say I was one of the front runners with some of the boys back in the lockdown days, talking about digicams and kind of spreading the gospel of digicams. And I think I kind of felt like I grew out of it. I felt like I grew out of digicams a bit. And I think I'm just realizing now that there's no such thing as growing out of digicams. I just think you go through different phases. And film is gorgeous. Film is the drug of all drugs, the drug of choice. I would shoot film all day, every day if it was free and cheap and easy. But it's none of those things. So it does make you look at different options again, and then I sort of went down that wormhole again of digicams and realized there is still some good here that is just timeless and will never be lost. So today, to all you digicam fans, today we're talking digicams again, and I'm going straight for the jugular. I'm going straight for those big juggos, and I'm talking about the Ricoh GRD, the classic, the one and only. No, not the APS-C size. We're talking the tiny 8.1 megapixel GRD Classic, the absolute GOAT of all time, right? The GOAT of all time. This one. Now, what I love about this camera is it's like I feel this affinity to it, this connection to that camera, like it's somehow a part of me. Yet, at the same time, it's a love-hate relationship, and I'm constantly in and out of love with this camera, which makes it super complicated. It's complicated, but that's kind of half the fun. Do I get good images from this camera? Damn straight I do. And I'm not trying to toot my own horn here, but I just love the images that come out of this camera. And I can get photos with this camera, and let's say the Ricoh GRs and GRDs and all those things, those kind of cameras. You can get images with those cameras that you can't get with other cameras. I know, the camera doesn't matter, and yeah, it's the person behind, and blah, 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 blah. I think I've said this enough. No, the camera doesn't matter, except for the points when it does exactly 100% matter, because the images I get with my mate, the Ricoh GRD, I wouldn't get with any other camera. I wouldn't have taken those shots. I would not have. Do you understand that? I would not have taken those shots if it was a DSLR, if it was a Fuji X100, if it was a Fuji XT2, 3, 4, 5. I wouldn't have taken the shot. So in that sense, that camera mattered. It mattered a lot. And guys, I just want to share some of the recent street work I did with this camera. I took it into Melbourne, and please understand, I took these shots over the period of 2 weeks. This is a 2-week window of me just going gangbusters with this camera. Now, what I find extremely good about this camera is the focusing system. Now, I will say the snap focusing is a bit slow, and the distance, I found it really hard to judge the distance of how far it was. I played with the set focus. I literally, seriously, I played with it heaps to try and dial it in to get the exact distance that I wanted to work with, but it just never worked. For me, I set it still on autofocus. I set this camera up as a fully auto camera, and I know that sounds really bad. I know that sounds like I don't know what I'm doing, but trust me, with this camera, you want to shoot it full auto. The only thing you want to control is the ISO, because every different ISO gives you a slightly different look. Just like film, if you're shooting 1600, you're going to have mad contrast. It's going to be gritty, it's going to be grainy. But if you shoot it at 100, you're going to get a really nice clean palette. So the ISO will really change the look. You just smash the contrast up and the detail and stuff like that, clarity, whatever it is. You just go a bit ham on that. Doesn't really matter too much. And you're good to go. It's really just an ISO machine, and just flick it to auto. And I had autofocus on, and literally, if you look at how I handle this camera, I give this camera no time to focus. I literally switch it on and then I'm just flicking the camera at the person in the last minute. Okay, last minute is completely incorrect. The last split second. Like, I cannot stress this to you enough. The amount of time between me having the camera in my hand and then facing the camera to the person to take a street shot of somebody, it's split seconds. The person's walking past me. In my mind, I'm like, no, I'm not taking this shot. I'm not taking this shot. I don't need to take this shot. I don't need to take this shot. I do not need to take this shot. And then just as the person just eclipses me and just passes me, I just think, nah, stuff it. And I just seriously flick the camera and just hit the shutter. Just hit it, don't care. Now, this gives me two outcomes. It'll either give me this insane blurred look, which I'm falling in love with, and I just think it's so cool. It shows movement, but somehow, because I'm moving with the subject has parts of it that are like crystal clear sharp, and then other parts are like motion blur, and I just think that's so damn cool. So I either get that outcome, or I get snapped on focus, and it's just perfect. And I'm just thinking, this is insane, man. Like, it's totally insane. Now, you might have noticed with mine, I've got the extension tube on the camera. Now, this isn't just by accident. I actually thought about this because I went out and I bought, technically, I paid for it, but I ended up returning the camera. Spoiler, I returned the camera. We'll get into it later. But the point I'm making here is I bought this camera with all the lens hoods, the extensions. I even had the 21mm accessory lens that makes it a 21mm, because someone told me, hey, this is awesome, you got to try out the 21mm add-on lens. So I got the whole shebang, man. I got everything, and I tried all the different combinations. I will say I did not really like the 21mm lens, not because the lens is bad. The lens is fine. There's really no issue with the lens at all. It's a great little lens. Look, it changes the size of the camera, but again, that doesn't really worry me. But it was just the fact of how close you need to be to your subject to get a photo. If you want to get some street shots, man, you need to, like, the lens almost needs to be touching their forehead to get an image of somebody. It's insanity. So I was like, you know what, this isn't for me. 28mm is probably as wide as I need to go. So I stopped using that. I started using a few lens hoods and things in that. And then I finally came to the conclusion that using the extension tube is a total game changer. Why? Because when the camera's off, it doesn't really look like a camera. Like, it's this weird box with a hole in it and this kind of extension tubey thing that's empty. And it just doesn't attract any attention. It's kind of this weird thing. What are you holding? It doesn't even make sense. It doesn't even look like it works. I like that. And then the second thing is, whenever you see a point and shoot camera like of this vintage, and the lens is like sticking out, like that is the international sign of I'm taking a photo. Whenever you see one of those telescopic lenses like sitting out of a camera, that's telling everyone that I'm taking a photo. Like, everyone knows that. There's no way of hiding it. Once the lens is collapsed, you know you're not taking a photo. So for me, having that extension tube, just like the barrel on and nothing else, it kind of hides the fact that that lens is telescopic out of it. That's how I felt anyway. It made me feel a hell of a lot less self-conscious. And I absolutely loved it. So that's a little tweak. See what you think about that. It also allowed me to sort of put my fingers around the lens, that extension tube, and kind of sort of cover it a little bit so it wasn't so obvious. And again, it protects the lens as well in case you bump it or something. So look, hey, it's an extra protection. I jived with that. I thought that was amazing. And I was able to get some banger shots. And I'm just going to roll the shots, guys. You've been seeing them. I'm just going to let you look at them. And you know, now you know my settings. I'm sort of jumping from 1600 ISO to 800 to 400. If the picture looks really gritty, obviously it's, you know, it's around that 1600. But yeah, I just love this camera, and I just love everything about it, and the images we got from it. Oh, like I said, it's a 2-week gap. This wasn't like 3 months of me collecting images. This was me just going, hey, I've got an hour. I'm smashing the street. I'm just going to go do a loop of the city. I'm just going to go for it. and I love it. I love it. So imagine what you could do with this camera if you took it, if I had it for 6 months and I really just went through, you know, early mornings, afternoons, late nights, did loops of the city. I would get, anyone could get potentially banger after banger. So I really feel that the Ricohs can get a look and a real gritty, in your face, feet on the ground, real life image that really captures the city, captures the street, captures the people that other cameras just can't, you know. And look, when I say Ricoh, you could probably do the same with the Nikon Coolpix A. You could probably do the same with that tiny little Fuji, what is it, the X70 or something like that, whatever it is. It's like the little mini pocket thing. You could probably do the same with them. They're just not as common, and they're probably too expensive for what they are. So man, I love this camera. Now, talking about Melbourne street shooters, when I was out in that 2-week period going to have a look with this camera, I bumped into a couple of street guys who were right there in Flemington train station, right at the front of the old train station, which I personally love that spot. These boys had Leicas. These boys were seasoned professionals. Use that word loosely, but they were out there having a go, you know. They were kind of like posted out, like staying there. I don't like staying in a spot. I get moving, man. You got to be moving, because if you move, then the image has this sense of movement and electricity to it. There's an excitement to the image. But if you just post up, and here's the thing with me, here's a hot little tip with me. Yeah, if I see street shooters, I'm going to get the hell away from them and just go to the other side of the city. And it's not like I'm not trying to be antisocial. I just feel like if you're a bunch of dudes going out, trying to, you know, get real life images and nitty gritty, you know, like stuff, how are you going to do it in a group? Like, you're just going to affect the scene so much. I'd much prefer to just be on my own and just go and shoot. Then later, you know, meet up with the boys in the pub and have a beer, go for it. That sounds fantastic. Talk about gear, but not actively be shooting and hanging out with guys. Like, I just couldn't do it. I don't know, do it. Like don't get me wrong, I would do it. If I met you on the street and you're like, hey bro, you want to go shooting? I'd do it. But if I really wanted to get some good work, I'd go on my own. Mate, I'm a lone wolf. What can I say? I'm a big old lone wolf. It's the only way to do it. But man, do I love this camera. It's fantastic. And I love Melbourne City. It's so good. Now, let's get a little bit into the reason why I let this camera go. Because I did eventually give this camera back. And there's a few reasons, and it's really important we go through it. Because, should you get rid of your Ricoh? Should you? Should you? Short answer, no, of course not. That's the stupidest thought ever. They're the best cameras to ever exist. And I think if they didn't exist, it would be an absolute travesty. So no, do not sell your cameras unless you sell them to me and I would like to buy them. But then beggeth the question, why did I sell my cameras or my GRD and hand it back? Alright, there's 3 main reasons why I got rid of it. Let's go through them now. Reason number 1 why I got rid of this camera is... Reason number 1 is that I paid too much for it. Okay, so I bought this one on eBay. It was like straight from Japan, and it was like plus condition. It's like brand new. But I also got it with the box. I got it with all the extension tubes and lenses and filters and lens caps, and it also had the 21mm accessory lens there that turns the camera into a 21mm focal length. So I got everything. I got everything with this camera because I wanted to really try this thing out, and that cost a lot. Like, it was around 600 Australian. Like, it's a lot for an old camera. And when you talk digicams, you got to remember that we're just taking care of this camera before it dies. Like, it's gonna die. It's just a matter of time. So you can't invest too much. Like, there has to be a limit. There has to be a limit to it, right? You can't just go and invest $600 in a camera that's 20 years old that you know is going to die. It's just a matter of time. And also, as a street camera, it's going to have a pretty hard life. It's going to be sitting in my pocket and then whipping the thing out, you know, switching it on and then just smashing that shutter button, and you know, it's got a hard life. It's not like some little princess camera that's going to be sitting in a little, you know, sealed case, then I'm going to bring it out and slowly operate it. Like, this thing gets smashed. You know, street cameras have a pretty hard life. So it was too expensive. But I bought it with all those accessories because I wanted to test it out. Now, in hindsight, looking back, I didn't like any of those accessories. I didn't like the 21mm lens adapter because it's just too wide for me, and you've got to get too close to the subject. So I didn't really bond with that. The lens, the lens hoods, I didn't care for them. They didn't really mean anything to me. I found they were just more junky. The only thing I really liked was the that extension-y tube thing that allows you to put filters on. Now, I didn't use it with any filters, but just having that tube just changed the way that the camera operated to me. To me, it made it heaps more incognito, it made it heaps more fun to use, and protected the lens, and that would be my go-to setup. But for that whole package that I got, way too much. For me, I'd be spending $300 to $400 max on this camera. That's what I would spend on this camera. Is it because it's not worth more? It is worth more. The image quality is amazing. It is a great camera, but you've got to balance that off with the point that it will die, and it could die in 6 months, it could die in 12 months, it could die in 24 months, we don't know, but it will die. So you've got to weigh up whether or not you want to spend more than that. So that's reason number one, it was too expensive. Reason number two is that I've recently moved out away from the city. I'm actually 2 hours away from the CBD, Melbourne CBD, which means I'm living in this little coastal country town, and this camera just doesn't have any purpose for me in a little sleepy country town. There's no fast action, there's no street, there's nothing. It's just a sleepy old town, and it's great. I love it, but it's not made for street. Now, if I lived in the CBD, Melbourne CBD, this would be my go-to camera. This would be my daily carry, and I'd be smashing and getting so many, and I'd start a Melbourne street channel on Instagram. I'd start my own separate page, and I'd just be uploading every day all my street photos. That's what I would do. But I don't live in the city, so it's kind of pointless. So why'd you buy it then if it's kind of pointless? Well, you know what? It just felt so good to have this camera back in my possession. It felt amazing just to have it one more time. Hey, let's just go around that merry-go-round one more time together, before we have to say goodbye. And that it just felt so good. So I'm so glad I did this. I'm so glad I've had it out again. I've got some banger shots. I'm just rolling the shots while we're chatting because it's just gorgeous. I just love this thing. But it really doesn't have a purpose for me while I'm living out in the country. And then my third and final reason, and this is like me really being nitpicky, is that the shutter button has a bit of a delay. Like if the scene is really basic and it's bright and it's sunny and the subject's really clear, it'll just snap on focus, or it'll just take the shot anyway, and you'll generally get the shot in focus. I don't have a problem. It's been a great camera, and I'm able to get some really unique photos with this. But if it's low light or the subject's a little bit, and look, it's an old camera, okay? So if you use digicams, you know what I'm talking about. If it's a bit of a confusing scene, the camera just won't take the photo, and you're just sitting there hitting that shutter button, waiting, and it's like, oh, I've just lost the shot. And I can't blame the camera because it's doing its best, and I actually think it does very well most of the time. But it's those few times where it just can't keep up, or it just can't understand what I'm trying to capture, and I just lose that shot. It's that feeling of losing control over the camera, and I hate that feeling so much. Like, I would much prefer it to take the photo but be out of focus than for it to miss the photo completely. Because you'd have more of a chance of saying, hey, it's out of focus, but every now and then, hey, I got it. It actually was in focus. It was awesome. I got it. So just for that reason. Now, the workaround with that would be to go manual, full manual, set the camera up. I tried to do that. I actually spent quite a few hours trying different manual settings to try and get it, and it just didn't work. It's not that it didn't work, it's that even when it does work, because you're pacing around the city so fast and people are moving so fast, the scenarios are changing so quick that you then got to start looking at settings and being like, oh, cool, change this, oh, got to change the shutter speed, oh, focus has changed, oh, here comes somebody. And it's not fast enough for me. I just keep it on auto, and I just flick the wrist and just snap those photos, man, as soon as I see them. It's ridiculous. And it works 9 times out of 10, so I can't lose, man. But my solution to this problem would be basically just upgrade the camera to a newer model, whether it would be a GRD4, which is still the older sensor style, but it's the last generation of it, because I think they've got great colors, and they're a lot faster than the original, obviously. Or it would be the GR1, which also has great colors and would be even faster again. That would be my sort of go-to. But the GRD Classic just has that little shutter lag. For street photography, it got annoying. For any other photography, it won't be a problem. Is it a deal breaker? No, it's not. It's not. And like I said, if I lived in the city and I got the camera for the right price, I'd keep it forever and ever and ever. It's a great camera. Do not sell them. If I was you, I would not sell them. But for me, living all the way out in the country, I'm not going to shoot it very often. It was way too expensive. And then just that little gripe about the shutter. Then I was like, nah, I got to let this one go. I got to let this one go. But besides that, it's been just so good to have this camera back and to just go down memory lane with it. I hope you are enjoying yourselves, and if you've got Ricohs, just love them up, guys. Just absolutely go to town with them. They're such good cameras, man. If you got one in the shelf and you haven't used it in a while, come on, go pull it out. Have some fun. You deserve it, and so does the camera. Remember all those good times you spent with it. And here's the other secret. This is a secret little bonus. There's a little bonus content. Is that, you know what else is so good about the Ricohs? Is that you can be out with friends, or you can be out doing something. You could be going to a job interview and have the Ricoh in your pocket. And while it's in your pocket and it's switched off, it doesn't exist. Like, it literally doesn't exist. It doesn't weigh you down. It doesn't create a bulge in your jacket. It's like it doesn't exist. And then when you're like, oh, I'm finished that now, I'd love to take some photos, you just reach in your pocket and there it is. It's ready to go. It's ready to become a camera and to go crazy on the street or wherever you are. Not many cameras have that, you know, where it just disappears in your pocket and it's like, oh, I'm just a normal guy. I'm not a photographer. I'm not a street photographer. I'm just a normal dude, just going out and living life. And I think that's powerful. It's powerful because it's good to be able to put the camera away and forget about it. Whereas if you've got a big Leica strapped around your neck or a Fuji around your neck, well, you're out taking photos, aren't you? And you can't not be doing that. Like, you have to put the camera away, like away. So that's why this camera is just fantastic, man. It's been so good to chat. Oh, this is such an easy video for me to talk on for hours and hours because it's such a good camera. But anyway, I better wrap it up. Let me know in the comments below. Tell me what you think. Let me know in the comments below. Tell me what you think, guys. What cameras have you been using? What digicams do you still use? Which ones have I not talked about that I should be? Which cameras am I sleeping on that I really need to know about? That would be really handy. Alright, thanks guys. Catch you on that next one.